Incentives for hiring foreigners rather than Canadians. And I have a whole invasion tab series to go through today. They wanted to kill Trump. So I saw this yesterday and I thought, man, the rhetoric's just hitting fever pitch. Kill Trump? Is that serious? And then I read through the documents that got released and holy cow, it kind of seems like they were preparing for that. And the FBI didn't want to do it. And I'll show you all of that. The whole series is at the end of the show today. So the Trump stuff's at the end. Green slush fund infrastructure bank is now implicated in the arrivescam style theft, in that somebody in a position of power was creating companies and they were benefiting from their conflict of interest in the position of power they were in. And so now one of those people has stepped down. Have you heard about Red Lobster going bankrupt? It's interesting because they used to own lots of land and then they restructured and they didn't own the land anymore and they couldn't pay the lease. And that's why they went bankrupt. And so it's interesting because it's not an American failure of capitalism, right? Which is what they're trying to package it as. It's predatory. It's a predatory way of destroying a company, which is interesting. And like looting the company at the same time, right? Robert Picton update. He's brain dead, apparently. Bye-bye, Klaus Schwab. And the reason that's interesting is because he was going to write a tell-all book and they were trying to stop the RCMP from destroying evidence in the Picton trial case. So and he was going to name names and all the rest of his co-conspirators and accomplices. So pretty wild and very convenient that he got Epstein, right? Bye-bye, Klaus. Klaus Schwab stepped down from the WEF, but it doesn't mean anything because Klaus Schwab is ultimately a puppet. Like Klaus Schwab is not the WEF. Klaus Schwab was the public face of the WEF for now, and everybody pointed out how he looks like a supervillain. And then I guess the WEF guys who are puppet mastering the WEF said, "Oh yeah, he kind of does look like a supervillain. Let's change that." I bet you, maybe not, maybe it's too close, but I bet you that Justin Trudeau gets a promotion, right? You're no longer the leader of the Liberal Party, but you can be the WEF guy, right? You can go around and pretend that you're a good guy and everybody will love you, right? And Justin Trudeau may be not aware enough to realize that absolutely everybody hates the WEF and Klaus Schwab and the WEF leader and all the rest of it. So maybe he'll walk into that rake, but maybe not. There's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. We have to start at Speakergate. Speakergate is... Greg Fergus has been a terrible speaker, an absolutely awful speaker. He's there because he's a liberal acolyte. He's a brown noser in the traditional sense of the word. And he is somebody who has done everything that he could possibly do to show his allegiance to Justin Trudeau, including acting in a partisan way in a supposedly nonpartisan role. And that's not good. People are really upset about that. What's going on? Robert Fife says House Speaker Greg Fergus is accused of using, quote, very partisan language about Pierre Poilievre in an ad promoting a coming event. So that's not good. And the Conservatives are spitting mad about this. Fergus must resign, says Larry Brock. Greg Fergus has proven himself unfit for the office of Speaker of the House. The latest partisan event shows Fergus has no desire to show neutrality or impartiality, a key requirement for Speaker. Fergus has lost confidence in the House. Time to go. And I thought that the Speaker needed to have confidence of the whole House. And so, but this is just a confidence vote. And so the Liberals win the confidence vote. Darn, right? With the NDP in the bloc, they win the confidence vote. So shucks, right? Speaker Fergus avoids any accountability again, but right under fire. Robert Fife says advertisement for Greg Fergus event removed from Liberal Party website after the Conservatives expressed displeasure at this partisan action by the Speaker. And like the House of Commons just started back yesterday. Yesterday is the first day after break. So all of this stuff is happening quick because it's been on a break for a while, right? And so they posted the partisan thing. The Conservatives objected. The partisan thing comes down, and Holly Doan says House of Commons Speaker Greg Fergus saves his job with NDP support after again breaching rules on nonpartisanship. It's clear he made a mistake. This is from May 22nd, this morning, 6:43 a.m., right? So, oh man, Greg Fergus, just can't get rid of him, right? And Stacy says, this infuriates me. I lost my son to opiates in 2020. Bradshaw somewhere says this is set up to make it look like Speaker Fergus is nonpartisan and is restoring decorum to the House. This was pre-planned. I mean, I don't think Poilievre was in on this. Poilievre's putting together a question that's interesting or whatever. It's multi-layered, and he's asking about he's saying the Conservatives or the Liberals are terrible, and then he asks about a specific thing. I think it has to do with drugs. And then Chrystia Freeland says, he's wearing more makeup than me today. And Greg Fergus asks her to withdraw, and that's it. But it's a staged event that has to do with Speakergate to make him look like he's doing his job in a nonpartisan way. That's why they did this, okay? Here's this.
Think that you pay down debt by borrowing more, that you stop inflation by printing money, and that you fight the drug overdose crisis by legalizing hard drugs. So at least they're consistent in their irrationality, Mr. Speaker. But now they've been forced to backtrack right before the election on their legalization of hard drugs because Canadians are revolting against the policy. Today we have a motion that will be voted in the House to permanently ban hard drugs. Will this government vote for that motion, or will they admit that they plan to legalize drugs again after the next election?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader is wearing more makeup than I am today. Now, I think it's wonderful.
I'm going to ask colleagues.
These are our elected officials. He asks her to withdraw.
Order! I'm going to ask the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance to withdraw that comment. We don't comment on the appearances of members. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry, I withdraw that comment.
There you go, right? The whole thing, just a little play. Right? A little display of, look, he's nonpartisan. He is correcting the deputy prime minister in the House, right? He doesn't play favorites, that speaker, except that he does, right? Publicly he does. And everybody knows it. But that display was meant to underline that he's nonpartisan. So do you believe it? No, not for a second. Not for a second. Let's talk about the invasion that's ongoing. Here's a video. Bruce McGonagall's highlighting this. Canadian senators want migration or migrant labor or temporary foreign workers included in the annual immigration plan. Will Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh give millions of temporary foreign workers and international students citizenship before the October 2025 election? I was told that in the 70s, Pierre Elliott Trudeau also gave amnesty to people who were here without legal status, et cetera, and it caused issues. There were draft dodgers and somebody else, some other class of people, and they were given citizenship and the whole deal, citizenship or permanent residency. I can't remember the details, but isn't it interesting that prime ministers named Trudeau do that? Very interesting. Here's the Senate, and they're saying not counting temporary foreign workers is causing a problem with how we count immigration. I don't think they're wrong. Here we go.
We have asked for the federal government to provide temporary residence in the annual immigration plan. Part of the problem is that that the numbers of temporary foreign workers have crept up on us without responsibility, without any accountability or transparency. So let's get a number and let's see how that works. That's a good first step, I believe, that the federal government should take. Restricting the number of temporary residents, whether they are workers or with a closed work permit or not, will have consequences. And this is the kind of knee-jerk reaction that this committee does not support. We want, for the first time in this context, a planned approach to meeting the needs of our labor market, meeting the needs of the temporary foreign workers. I have always maintained Canada must and should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, and we've laid out a plan to do so.
Meeting the needs of everybody but Canadians. Maybe Canadians were an afterthought in there. Holly Doan says cabinet should count all foreign workers or all foreigners let into Canada in annual immigration levels plan, says the Senate Social Affairs Committee. True number is quadruple the official figure given by Immigration Canada. So that's Immigration, Refugees, Citizenship Canada. Wonder why we have a housing crisis. Wonder no more. Dr. Leslie Lewis says in order to meet the Liberals' latest housing goal, they must build 1,096 homes every minute until 2031. The Liberals, I just want to make sure this is clear for everybody so we're all on the same page in our understanding. The Liberals have increased immigration to a level that is insane. Absolutely insane. It's not sustainable. We can't serve all the people we're bringing in. All the people we're bringing in are causing the housing crisis itself. Because of supply and demand, the demand outpacing the supply by hundreds of thousands every year, right? Not millions, but hundreds of thousands of units. But we're behind by millions because this has been happening for years and we've been bringing in 1 million people while we build 250,000 homes. So that's less 750,000 homes, right? $750,000. So we are in a situation where we are in a housing deficit and we keep bringing people in. And the only solution that the Liberals are offering is to build more homes. And the financials of building more homes aside, but they're terrible right now, so home starts are down, but let's forget about that for the minute. The only solution being proposed by the Conservatives at this point in time, the only thing they really talk about is building more homes. Pierre Poilievre goes through, and I'll show you the video in just a minute. We're going to get there in just a second. But he goes through a scenario where there's an island with 10 homes and 20 families, and they keep trying to give the families money and all sorts of different solutions to this. But the problem is there's too many families and not enough homes. And Pierre Poilievre goes on to talk about building. And that's the wrong solution if you want to solve this problem. It's not practical to double the number you're building in order to cater to people who are coming into the country, right? You can't do it. It's not something that's plausible to do. If you have a drywall team that can drywall 10 houses, right? And let's say the team has got 5 people in it or something like that, and they can do 10 houses a day. And you tell them that they have to do 20 houses a day, but not really get paid anymore, or maybe they can get paid more, but do you think the 20 houses are going to be the quality of the 10 they could do previously? Do you think they can actually get through it, or are they just going to get further behind? Doubling the capacity to build is much harder than reducing the demand. Nobody's talking about reducing demand. Sorry, that was a little bit long to get there, but I want to underline it. Nobody's talking about that. They're all talking about building houses. The Conservatives are criticizing the plan, saying, well, you can't build that many houses. It's not practical. And they're right. But I don't hear the follow-up of, let's turn off the taps of immigration. They're not really saying that. Not very clearly anyway. I can't hear them over the din of them calling for building houses. Right, here's Leslie Lewis.
Your government has set some pretty ambitious targets to build homes in for Canadians. Your government's goal is 3.9 million homes in 2031. That's 1.096 homes must be built every minute. That's 65 homes per hour. We've been here just over 30 minutes. Has your government built 32 homes in the last 32 minutes, Minister?
My view is that people who would suggest a problem is impossible to solve shouldn't try to interfere with the person who's trying to actually solve it. If your goal is to throw up obstacles every way, feel free, have a field day. I want to solve the housing crisis. My goal is actually based around what I think it will take to solve it.
Point of order,
As I expect, Mr. Chair.
Point of order.
Sorry, I have a point of order. We're going to stop the time.
Math is unforgiving, right? Like, if you say you're going to do this, and then the math of it works out to a situation where you should be building 32 homes, he should be able to cite projects that are underway. He should be able to say, this is our capacity for delivering the promise that we've made. And he can't. He just says, oh, well, those who want to throw up obstacles should get out of the way of those trying to do it. How about pointing out the fact that the math is flawed? How about the fact that pointing out your promise is pie in the sky ridiculous and not you will not be able to deliver it? You won't. Holly Doan is highlighting the same video we just saw. Housing Minister Fraser says critics must not interfere in his plan to build 3.9 million homes. Fraser's remarks follow observation from Leslie Lewis that construction targets would require a new home to be built every 60 seconds. Yep. And so, very interesting. Maxime Bernier weighs in on this, and he's responding to a March 27th 2017 tweet where it says at CBC News saying Maxime Bernier says he'd deploy military as needed to stop illegal border crossings. Oh man, if only we did that, right? Jeepers creepers, Canada would be a sovereign state still, maybe. Maxime Bernier says, that was 7 years ago. Since then, I've been the only Canadian politician willing to do what's necessary, or what's needed, to stop the invasion by legal and illegal immigrants. Will Canadians wake up before it's too late? Our elections are rigged. We need to deal with that reality and also deal with the reality that the people currently in our government are not working for us. And I don't know how to deal with that reality in a practical way. I'm a very practical thinker. I like to try and be a practical thinker sometimes. Sometimes you don't know what's possible in certain areas, right? But practically, we need to actually deal with the fact that we're under attack as if we're under attack. And we're not. Maxime Bernier, again, he's responding to population growth chart from the Globe and Mail, and I don't have a date on it, so apologies about that, but the tweet was from the 21st, which is yesterday, and it says population growth appears to be picking up steam ahead of government crackdown. So the numbers from 2007 to 2024, and 2024 is 4 times what 2007 was, and that's just one stream, I'm sure. Maxime Bernier says, if colonialism was such a bad thing in the past, why do proponents of mass migration believe it's a good thing that Canada is being literally invaded and colonized today? So in the past, colonialism bad. Now, colonialism good because whitey bad? It's very, very odd. It's very odd to have a country that hates itself so much and have a government that hates the country as much as the citizens have been taught to. It's really, really a head trip to live through at this point in time. Because if you're a patriot, right, they're trying to make Canadian flags akin to terrorist flags, but Palestinian flags are okay. Palestine, Hamas flags are okay. Canadian flag terrorism. What? Right? That's how crazy it is in Canada. I wish I were lying. I wish it wasn't true, but it is. Here's Pierre Poilievre talking about, what we got to do to fix this problem? Build some homes. Here we go.
Very simply, we have a...
Oh, sorry. The other two clips I played were very, very quiet, and so apologies if that was too loud. This should be better.
very simple problem in housing. What we love to say things are complicated. It's not complicated. We have more families than homes. It's that simple. If you have an island with 20 families and 10 homes, it doesn't matter what kind of clever, crafty government program you bring in. You send every one of those families $1 million to buy a home. Well, the same 20 families would take the $1 million and bid up those same 10 homes, $5 million. So we can give people more money, come up with clever tax breaks, we can extend the length of their mortgages so banks can lend out more, but they're all still bidding on a fixed number of homes that are insufficient for the demand. We need to build more homes, and that means getting the government bureaucracy out of the way. I will require local governments to speed up permits, free up land, and lower the tax and development charges for home building. They will be required to permit 15% more homes per year and skyrise apartments around every federally funded transit station as a condition of getting federal funds. Municipalities that permit more homes will get more federal funds. Those that permit less homes will get less federal funds. They will be paid like realtors and builders per home for the keys in the doors, for results, not promises, not processes.
Keys in the doors of who? Right? Like, you get people moving into those houses. So it doesn't matter who moves into those houses, just that people move into those houses, like people from not other parts of Canada, right? People not from other cities, but maybe from other countries. Keys and doors, you get paid. So it incentivizes the municipalities to make housing fill up as quickly as possible because their funding depends on it. I don't know. I still haven't, maybe I missed it, but I still haven't heard anything about reducing the demand. Not one little thing about reducing demand.
Not commitments, but homes completed. And that way we will pay for results, we will get results. We will sell off 6,000 federal buildings and thousands of acres of federal land to build, and we'll back up the trades so that we can have more boots, not just more suits on the ground building those homes.
Shucks darn, I guess it was in another part of the speech that had to do with immigration and housing. I guess, probably, right? Probably. It's just not important to mention that part when you're talking about fixing the housing problem, right? Like that's not when you talk about that part. Randy Balsano says, if you have the training, you should get the job. Oh, I have training. Tried the training. He continues, though through Budget 24, we're investing $50 million to make sure that foreign trained workers can contribute and succeed in Canada. That it is fair for every generation. Huh. Foreign trained workers. So if I go get training in a foreign country and it's cheaper than in Canada, I can come and take a Blue Seal test and become a doctor. Lickety split. All right. Right. Like, yeah, I was an accountant in Jamaica. Sure. Where's the test? My goodness. It's not helpful. It's not helpful, right? Why aren't you investing in Canadians who are here? Why are we investing in foreigners? And I don't mean to, like, my parents are foreigners. My grandparents came here as as immigrants to Canada, right? And my parents weren't born here. I was born here. And so I don't have any ill will to immigrants who do it the way, not necessarily that my family did it, but you are responsible for your own success or failure, not the Canadian government, not the Canadian taxpayer. If you contribute to the society, then you'll be welcomed with mostly open arms, right? But there's going to be a period of adjustment and all the rest of it. And I don't think anybody would expect any different, right? Like my grandmother and grandfather didn't speak much English. My dad translated a lot of their conversation, and I didn't speak very good Greek or anything like that. So, I mean, that's a bump, right? That's difficult, right? That's a price paid by my family to do what they did. And so I don't think it's anybody's responsibility to smooth that out, other than time. Time smooths that out. But it's not the federal government's responsibility to make that better. You know what I mean? I don't feel like my life was any, well, I feel like I potentially missed out on a deeper relationship with family, right? That, you know, could have been cured by me working harder or being better with language or something to that effect. I don't know. But it's not the government's fault. It's nobody's fault. It just is. You know what I'm saying? It's the best that could be in the circumstances. And I had quite a close relationship with my grandparents, right? Like, they spoke enough English that we could communicate well. It wasn't like it was through a translator or anything like that, but I just didn't speak Greek. And so it's one of those things that it bothers me that the government is focusing so completely and so much money on foreigners, getting money out of the country, paying for foreigners to come here. When Pierre Poilievre starts opening up all the houses, and all of those houses get filled by foreigners because they're the easiest ones to get in houses because they've got government assistance and preferential mortgage rates, what happens then, right? Will it be rude to point out that that's racist? Or it can't be racist because it's against Canadians, right? I don't know. Here's Harrison Faulkner, and he's highlighting a list of government grants that incentivize hiring foreigners over Canadians. Biotalent Student Work Placement Program, 50% of wages up to $5,000 or 70% of wages up to $7,000. Career Ready Student Placement Program, 50% of salary up to $5,000 or 70% of salary up to $7,000. Agri-Talent Student Work Placement Programs, 50% of salary up to $5,000 or $70,000 to $70,000 for newcomer students. CLAC Apprenticeship Support Programs, $5,000 in funding for trades apprenticeships, not in Quebec. Echo Canada Apprenticeship Service Program, $5,000 per apprentice plus $5,000 of hiring foreign workers. Career Launchers Apprenticeship Program, $5,000 for construction workers plus $5,000 if hiring foreign workers. Advanced Pathways, 70% of newcomers' salary up to $15,000 in Alberta and Ontario, British Columbia, and Nova Scotia. Environmental Foreign Talent Development Program, $15,000 per hire. Welcoming Newcomers Wage Subsidy, 50% of salary up to $10,000. Skilled Newcomer Internship for the Bioeconomy Program, 75% of salary up to $20,000. So a lot of these places, like, would Walmart take advantage of something like this? If you got $5,000 in salary up to, or 50% of the salary up to $5,000 or 70% up to $7,000, and you have a certain amount of time that you need worked, and a lot of workers in retail and things like that are making, you know, $10,000 to $12,000. So that's a huge for a year, right? So that's a huge chunk of the salary. That's an incentive to hire foreigners over Canadians. Is something like this beneficial to Canada? Isn't it racist? No. Why not? Why not? Peter Sweden says, the truth about Sweden has the most bombing attacks in the world for a country not at war. It has one of the highest numbers of reported rapes in the world. It has the highest number of young people killed in shootings in Europe. Has has almost 60 no-go zones with gang crime out of control. Over 68,000 women are reported to have been genitally mutilated. Or genially mutilated. I think he means genitally, but I could be wrong about that. We used to be one of the most peaceful countries in the world. Now it's a complete disaster. What do you think went wrong? Globalism, global communism, globalism. Here is, so that's Sweden. Let's go back to Canada. What do you think's happening here? Wall Street Silver says, migrate fake refugees, import into Ireland, doing a barbecue on a dog. This is the culture we're importing. A few years ago in Milton, I think it was Milton or Peel area, somebody was skinning a sheep and then or a goat in a backyard, and they had a whole it was a whole ceremony and they were doing a whole thing, and somebody recorded it kind of like this, and it got buried pretty quick. This is right after I think the Danforth shooting, and people, it's the same kind of thing. What do you expect when you wholesale import a culture, right? What do you expect? They're going to do what they culturally do previously, and they're not going to see anything wrong with it, right? So this is Ireland, and they're barbecuing a dog, right? So there you go. Wild stuff, right? What do you expect? What do you expect? The other day, I told you, this is kind of going to the UK. The other day, I told you that there's speculation that we are at war already. This was Andrew Bergden, who's an MP in the United Kingdom. He was talking to one of the Russian ambassadors. The Russian ambassador said, you guys over there in England and in the West are sending trainers and stuff to train the Ukrainians on how to run your equipment, your military equipment. And we know that you're actually just running it. We understand that we're already at war. It's funny that you guys don't understand that. And Brigden said, yeah, well, I mean, the leadership understands that. And so Rishi Sunak doesn't want to be a wartime prime minister. So they're going to get rid of him, and they're going to let the public know sometime in June or July. And so, right? First, we'll get to that in just a minute. Well, here, I'll show you this first. Rumors are circulating that later this afternoon, Rishi Sunak will call a July election. So that's today. So watch for that. I'll mention it tomorrow if indeed Rishi Sunak calls a July election. And Rishi Sunak is hanging out with, who is he? The Chancellor of Australia, or Austria Chancellor. And apparently the UK are the best in the world at illegal migration, dealing with illegal migration. Rishi Sunak says Britain is leading the way on tackling illegal migration. Don't take my word for it. That's what the Austrian Chancellor told me earlier today. And Charlie says the UK is a pioneer for this model. What? So Rishi Sunak is getting out of Dodge before the proverbial poop hits the fan. Interesting stuff. Here's Michael Barrett and Michael Cooper. They're talking about the slush fund, the infrastructure bank being a slush fund, and the arrivescam stuff is contractors, headhunters getting paid on the front and the back end. But the kind of meat of it is people who are in charge, people who are in positions of power, also started their own companies and we're putting money into those companies from taxpayer dollars. And this seems like a conflict of interest. This seems improper. This seems to go against the procurement rules and the rules of how you do this, and they've been caught, and there's a whole bunch of different examples. Arrivescam is one, and this looks like another. Michael Barrett says Trudeau's former billion-dollar slush fund executive resigns from the infrastructure bank after being exposed for funding companies she was invested in. And Trudeau rewarded corruption with her appointment to the bank. Has liberal corruption spread to its useless infrastructure bank? And Michael Cooper says an executive at Prime Minister Trudeau's corrupt green slush fund funnels tens of millions of taxpayer funds or dollars to companies she had interest in. Trudeau rewarded this self-dealing executive with an appointment to his costly and useless infrastructure bank. Her resignation raises new questions. So the kitchen got a little hot, and she's like, I'm out. See you later. And so that doesn't look good, right? Looks kind of guilty, right? Looks like you're maybe implicated in all of this nonsense, this dirty laundry that we're finding out about the Liberals. And so that's interesting. We'll find out how that shakes out. Maybe not. Who knows? Here's a grab bag of governance, because this is, there's lots of interesting stories that really didn't fit anywhere else, but it's government related. So the other day I had a video where one of Trump's lawyers was saying, listen, they didn't need to convict Trump to destroy him. All they needed to do was an allegation against him, and then Trump needs to defend himself. And in that action and subsequent actions after starting that series of events. Trump is destroyed just by having to defend himself. Trump's reputation is dragged through the mud. The allegation is makes him look like he's a bad guy. He's not a good dealer. He's somebody to be avoided, and so on and so forth. And they don't need to prove it in court. All they have to do is the allegation. All they have to do is toss the mud, and they get rid of their political opponent. And I was desperate. I was trying to find the video. I was like, where's this video? And my Google foo was just failing me. I didn't know how to tell the search engines what I was looking for. I was like, I couldn't come up with very good terms to come up with it. So apologies that I couldn't find the video. But that's fundamentally what happened to destroy Trump. And I mean, if you think about it, there's a whole bunch of people who have been destroyed through this kind of manufactured nonsense thing. Remember the guy who said he was going to win the presidential election, the Democrat presidential thing, maybe 2004, and he did the hoo-ah thing, and people were like, "Oh man, that's too much." And then they put in their candidate. I can't remember his name. I can't remember. Hold on. So it was Howard Dean. I had to go find it because this is honestly what destroyed his campaign, and it's nonsense, right? Like the media destroyed him over this for nothing. And then 2004, it was George Bush's re-election, 2004. Do you know who actually got the nomination instead of this guy? John Kerry. The climate czar himself, right? Guy Smiley. Okay, here's how they destroyed Howard Dean, because he was too enthusiastic. They were like, this guy seems like a mega Republican.
You know something? If you had told us 1 year ago that we were going to come in third in Iowa, we would have given anything for that. And you know something? Not only are we going to New Hampshire, Tom Harkin, we're going to South Carolina and Oklahoma and Arizona and North Dakota and New Mexico. And we're going to California and Texas and New York. And we're going to South Dakota and Oregon and Washington and Michigan. And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House. Yeah!
How dare he? How dare he? I think that's it. Hold on, I'm going to double check. Yep, that was the L. I thought maybe there was an off chance that he kind of went off again and was like, "Rah!" and looked really unhinged or something like that. But no, that was it. Like he didn't seem unhinged at all. It was just kind of like, yeah, cool, great. There's a whole big crowd cheered for me. They destroyed him over this, so John Kerry could walk in. So the same model applies in Canada, and they smeared all of the top brass of the military with false sexual assault charges. And then when there was pushback, I mean, they got them out of the positions and they replaced them with the people they wanted, like John Kerry. And it was easy, right? And all they're going to have to do is pay millions of dollars to just take over the military wholesale, right? That's what they did. Here's National Post reporting, Canadian general accused of sexual misconduct sues to get a chance to tell my side of the story. Lieutenant General Whelan's lawsuit claims the government of Canada deliberately or negatively destroyed his career and well-being to secure desired political or personal outcome. I think he's exactly right. I think he's 100% accurate about what he's saying, but it sounds crazy. It sounds absolutely crazy. So he says, I didn't get a chance to tell my side of the story. Whelan's lawyer, Philip Miller of Miller's Lawyers, has just filed a bruising statement of claim with the federal court in Ottawa, naming a who's who of Canada's military establishment as defendants, a litany that makes the allegations of abuse of offense, negligent investigation, malicious prosecution, and involvement in media leaks that destroyed Whelan's reputation and career. Defendants named in the lawsuit include His Majesty the King in Right of Canada, the Crown, and top brass in the Department of National Defence, DND, Canadian Armed Forces, Jody Thomas, former Deputy Minister of National Defence and former National Security Advisor to the Prime Minister, General Wayne Eyre, Chief of Defence Staff, Lieutenant General Francis Allen, Vice Chief of Defence Staff, and Lieutenant General Jeannie Kerrigan, CAF's Chief of Professional Conduct and Culture. The allegations stretch all the way to the Prime Minister's office. So, yeah, did they collude and coordinate to get rid of these generals? Yes, for sure they did. Definitely 100%. Just like they're trying to get rid of Donald Trump, just like they're trying to get rid of anybody who stands in their way through defamation, racist, bigot, all of these things, redefining what a terrorist is while waving terrorist flags, right? Hello everyone, thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to canadapoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful